This lesson is for substance abuse, drug-free workplace, and your employee assistance program. The terminal performance objective for this lesson is while employed with the City of Dalton, the employee will understand the proper way to access and utilize the City's employee assistance program. Our enabling objectives are to discuss the disease model of addiction. We will define alcoholism, discuss the City of Dalton's drug-free workplace policy, discuss the types of drug tests administered to City of Dalton employees, and we'll also identify how to contact the City of Dalton's Employee Assistance Program provider. To get started, let's look at how common substance abuse is. Statistics say that up to 85 to 90% of adults in the United States use alcohol or other mood-altering chemicals. Of that 85 to 90%, 10 to 12% of those people are addicted. So what we have to look at is what makes these people different. When looking at that, we have to understand that a person becomes physically addicted. It's not a matter of willpower or morality. We realize that the problem of drug and alcohol excess has been recognized for thousands of years, but only during the past 100 years have we really begun to see chemical dependency as a disorder that can be treated. According to the disease model of addiction, habitual use of alcohol or drugs can be characterized as a disease. Studies also show that irreversible changes occur in those who use substances repeatedly. When individuals become addicted to alcohol or drugs, those changes make being a normal drinker or social drug user pretty much impossible. The more severe the loss of control while using or drinking, the more true this is. Substance abuse becomes an obsession of the mind in which the only thing that matters is drinking or using. The bright side is, though, that addiction is a treatable disease. Many people who are addicted feel hopeless about their situation. They feel they cannot stop using and cannot face life without the help of alcohol or drugs. So let's look at the disease of alcoholism in itself. The disease of alcoholism is progressive. It's not something that just happens overnight. It's typically something that takes many years to reach this level to where the person becomes physically addicted. If you think back on your life or think back of people that you know personally that have had some type of problem with alcoholism, you can probably sit there and think about these times, how it's kind of transitioned over being a small issue and then turning into that person becoming an alcoholic. It is degenerative. It also is a fatal disease. Genetics do play a role in this, and it's also biochemical. So when we look at the genetic aspect of it, we see that family studies show that children of alcoholics demonstrate a 3 to 4 times increased risk of addiction. This is pretty substantial when we start looking at the types of people that we deal with in our profession, in law enforcement, that we may end up seeing this pass from generation to generation, and it still be a thing that we have to deal with on a regular basis. There's also been some adoption studies that have been conducted, and when we look at these, we can see that biological children of alcoholics have a much higher risk of alcoholism regardless of who parents them, as well as sons of alcoholics are 4 times more likely to become an alcoholic than sons of non-alcoholics. So again, this is pretty substantial when we look at this from our side of the field in law enforcement, or even on the personal side of it, if we know someone that has a problem with alcoholism. Some of the myths out there you may have heard about alcoholism. Most alcoholics are homeless. We all know this is a myth. You know, some people that are homeless may be alcoholics, but there's really not a relation in between the fact that most alcoholics are homeless. There's no economic boundary there. It doesn't matter if you live in the most wealthy neighborhood all the way to the homeless camps. There's still alcoholism affects everyone in between. Alcoholics are all men. The alcoholic must know, or he or she that has a drinking problem. Alcoholics can learn to drink socially. A person who has a high tolerance for liquor will never become an alcoholic. Everyone suffers from memory loss when they drink a lot. And alcohol can't really hurt anyone. Again, these are all myths, and we know this based on our profession and our personal dealings with this. Some of the definitions of alcoholism that we can look at: when drinking interferes with your job, relationships, personal life, or your health, there may be some issues there with alcoholism. Excessive drinking, which causes serious problems for the individual. The person cannot stop without help, even if they wanted to. The person may feel powerless over alcohol, loss of control over the intentions about drinking, such as how much the person will drink, where they drink, when, different times of the day, things like that. An alcoholic does not drink by choice. Alcohol is physically addicting, and again, it can be hereditary. Johns Hopkins University uses an alcohol screening tool, and it's a series of 19 questions. If you look at these here, 1 through 9 is displayed on your screen now. You can see these are just some basic questions they ask when individuals come in for assistance with alcohol abuse. Take a couple seconds, look through these, 1 through 9. And then the secondary set of questions all the way through 19. Take a few seconds and look at these as well. Again, Johns Hopkins University uses this screening tool, and they say that if you answered at least 3 of those questions with a definite yes, then you demonstrate drinking patterns that could be harmful to yourself, your family, and your employer. If this is the case, then you can seek assistance through the City of Dalton's Employee Assistance Program, and that number will be provided here in just a few moments as we continue through this presentation. If you have any questions about this, feel free to contact your supervisor, the Human Resources Department with the City of Dalton, and there's also some flyers around the police department that are posted in various locations that has the EAP's contact information. As we continue on, let's look at the City of Dalton's drug-free workplace policy. There's several reasons why that a city will have these types of policies in place. First and foremost, it's to maintain a safe and productive workplace. It's to protect the property of the city, the citizens, and their employees. It's also to ensure the employees of the city perform their duties to the highest level of efficiency, proficiency, and professionalism, and also to qualify the city as a drug-free workplace under all applicable state and federal laws. Just a side note, this information is taken directly from the drug-free workplace policy of the City of Dalton, and it's intended as an overview only. That full policy is available in the City of Dalton Policy and Procedure Manual. So let's look at the definition of a city premises. It's all property, facilities, land, buildings, structures, parking lots, automobiles, and or any other vehicle used by the city. It's also all locations where city employees are performing their public job functions, all locations of city-sponsored events, any place where city employees are traveling to or from in the performance of their duties on behalf of the city, including the employee's own vehicle, if that vehicle is being used for city business, or wherever that vehicle is parked if it's on city property. You can see down below, you've got the definition of an illicit chemical substance. This is any measurable amount of any drug, controlled substance, or any of the other items listed below. Continuing on through that definition, it also includes any lookalikes or designer drugs. Those could be things such as synthetic marijuana, things of that nature. Any unauthorized prescription drugs, or any authorized drugs which are not prescribed for a verifiable medical condition and used in strict accordance with the policy or with the prescribing physician's instructions. In order to ensure that employees are adhering to the City of Dalton's drug-free workplace policy, the city does different types of drug testing. The first type is a post-offer or pre-placement. This is for all job candidates after a conditional offer of employment but prior to that individual starting work. The second one is at random. This is for employees in safety-sensitive positions such as public safety. At least 50% of those covered employees are to be tested annually. And also for cause. This will be reasonable belief that an individual is in violation of the policy or after a workplace accident. Only a department head or manager or the city's EAP coordinator has the authority to require an employee or other person to submit to a search or drug screening test, or to authorize a supervisor to require an employee to submit to a test. If you refuse to consent to a search, inspection, or blood or plasma screening, the employee will be informed that the refusal can result in his or her termination. If that person is a job candidate, then the human resources representative shall inform that person that after a job offer has been made, if any, it may be withdrawn if they refuse to consent to the testing. If the initial result is a negative test result, and it shows that the person does not have any illicit chemical substance in their body, and the employee does not possess any authorized items, that employee may be subjected to a second confirming test, but that will be made only in the sole discretion of the Human Resources Director. Otherwise, the employee will be returned to work immediately, paid in full for any time lost, and all time lost shall be considered as if the employee had worked. No adverse record of the incident will be made, and the mere fact that an incident has been investigated shall not be considered adverse to the employee's interest where a drug test is negative. If it is a positive test result, and if that initial screening test or search reveals that the employee has violated this policy, the employee will immediately be suspended with pay pending a confirmation test of bodily fluids or of the substance found within the search. If its chemical identity cannot be immediately determined with certainty. Employees will be informed of the confirmation test in writing within 5 days of that, and then the employee has the right to contest or explain a positive test result within 5 days after you receive a written copy of that. If the test is positive during the first test, and you have the sample tested as a second test by a qualified laboratory, and that test shows negative, then the city may, at its own expense and own discretion, have a third confirming test done, and that will be considered as final. That'll be the final result after that third one is completed. Again, if you have any questions about the City of Dalton's drug-free workplace policy, feel free to contact the Human Resources Department or your immediate supervisor. The employee assistance program that we use, the program provider is Horizon Health. They can be reached at the number listed on the screen, 1-800-955-6422. Even if you think you're never going to use this is not a bad number to keep on hand and keep on your person. Just in case you run into someone that's a coworker that's having some issues, you can easily give that number to them. So when you look at this, a lot of people always ask what types of issues the Horizon Health EAP provides. There's several different things that they address, several types of problems they address. One is alcohol or drug abuse, just like we talked about in the beginning of this lesson. But they also offer several different types of services. They can help with grief counseling, legal consultation, referral to discounted services, depression, financial planning and debt management, emotional issues. They can also deal with stress and anxiety issues with work and or your family, relationship issues, life improvement, and emotional well-being. Another question that comes up pretty frequently is who can use the EAP? You and members of your immediate family or your immediate household are eligible for these services. And household members are defined as dependents or family members who are living with you. Another question that comes up is how much does it cost? The good thing is the EAP is a service that's already paid for by the city. So if you use services that are not part of this, you might be responsible for those portions that are not covered by your health insurance, but you're allowed 6 visits per year per issue. So an example would be you're having some issues with at home, some marital issues, and you need to talk to someone about some counseling, then you would be allowed 6 free visits for that. 6 months later, you have a death in the family and you need to deal with something like that, you get 6 issues for that. So it's 6 issues or 6 free visits per issue that you have. Another question that comes up is who will know if I use the EAP? We all know confidentiality and things like that are very important. So you and or your family members' participation in the EAP is strictly confidential. This means that if you access the EAP, neither your employer nor anyone else will know unless you decide to tell them. If you're referred to the EAP by a supervisor because of some type of performance issue, this is called a management referral. You'll be asked to sign an authorization form that basically allows your supervisor to make sure that you've met with your counselor and to make sure that you're following any type of recommended treatment plans. No specific treatment information is given to your supervisor unless you authorize it. These resources are available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Same number, 1-800-955-6422. You can call that number. A member advocate will assist you. And they contract, Horizon Health contracts with several providers in the Dalton and surrounding areas, and they can even make the appointment for you if you'd like for them to. So during this lesson, we've talked about the disease model of addiction. We've defined alcoholism. We've discussed the City of Dalton's drug-free workplace policy. We've talked about the different types of drug tests administered to City of Dalton employees. And we've also talked about how to contact the City of Dalton's Employee Assistance Program provider. If you have any further questions about this, once again, feel free to contact the Human Resources Department with the City of Dalton or your immediate supervisor.